And welcome back to part 9 of Final Fantasy 15. As you can see, we're finally heading our way to Lestalem now to, advance the plot. It's only been, 3 parts since the last time you did anything plot relevant. But I decided to start recording here originally because I thought it's close enough, and crossing this bridge, it is a new area that we haven't been to yet, so I felt it was worth showing off as we went past. I do need to actually remember to refuel the car at some point because we are starting to burn through it. We've still got quite a lot of fuel left to go through, but you'll be surprised how quickly that'll burn through if you don't keep an eye on it. But we're under a mile now, we're nearly there. I think we've just got a little tunnel as the game stutters and then we're there. In which we'll be introduced to a new character who is one of my favourite characters in this game. But I won't spoil... Well, as I say, I won't spoil it. As I see, it says meet Iris in Lestalem on the objective to the right. But yeah, Iris is one of my favourites in this game. She's such a fun character.
Wonder where we'll end up.
And Lestalem's probably the closest to the big city central hub you get in this game. A lot of Final Fantasies in the past have one city be far bigger than every other, and it's the one you return to the most. This is the closest to that you get. Well, technically it's the only city that you can go to in the overworld, but that's besides the point. It's filling in that kind of system that's kind of familiar with the Final Fantasy series. I think the only one to not do that full stop was 13, because 13's the only time it got kind of open was all the foresty areas, and there wasn't any real outpost city points in it. It was just more forestry stuff or dungeons.
It's getting hot out here.
It is getting hot, Noctis, in real life as well.
Yeah.
The weather's been quite a scorcher here in the UK for the past month and a half.
Yes, I'm certain we can secure.
We've got some nice clouds rolling in now, so I didn't mind doing some extra recording, because it doesn't matter if my room becomes a sweat bucket, because it's much less likely to get as bad. But there's lots to see and do here in Lestalem. We won't do it all today, but it'll show off what's the mandatory stuff, and that's about it. Also, advertising's here. There's cup noodles you can buy. Yeah, actual cup noodles in real life.
Hell of a crowd. Oh, this must be the main thoroughfare.
Yeah. If you're playing the multiplayer expansion to this game, Comrades, you'll become a hell of a lot more familiar with Lestalem as a whole. But for now, we'll move on, and I won't talk about the online stuff too much, so I won't spoil what it's about until we get to it. And the radio, I believe, is telling us about the planned ceremony of funeral for Lady Lunafreya, who we know is still alive just as much as Noctis is, but the rest of the world think is dead just like Noctis. Bloodshed. And of course, as soon as the radio ends, it immediately goes to the casual dialogue of people around talking about the burning heat. Doesn't ruin the mood a little bit at all. But I digress. Over here is the La Ville, a lovely hotel that I believe gives a 1.5 experience boost every time you rest here. So it's kind of handy to have around, you know. It's not as good as the Golden Keys 2.0, but it's still pretty good.
What's wrong? My head just started throbbing. You alright? Yeah, I'm fine.
Dun dun dun. You take one glance at it, you already kind of know what it's implying, what it's hinting towards, but just for the few of you that didn't catch on, I'll keep quiet about that for now, until the plot itself reveals it a little later on.
Gladdy!
Iris.
Look at you guys holding your own out there.
What can I say? You look good.
All things considered, you guys are staying here, right?
That's the plan.
When you have time, we have catching up to do.
Sure. And
that's Iris, Gladiolus's younger sister, and she has all the spunk and personality you need to encourage you to progress through your journey. And there's a very extended black screen here before the next cutscene starts. Oh, there we go. Where we get introduced to this old fellow and Talcott.
Please excuse my grandson. He has yet to learn his manners.
I like it.
Your Highness is very kind, but we shan't impose.
A very good night to you, Your Highness.
So, Iris, what was it like inside the Crown City?
Not pretty. The Citadel took a beating. But a lot of outlying neighborhoods made it through in one piece.
The Empire had tactical targets in mind.
You know, if there's anything else, you can ask me.
Yeah, thanks. What?
So, about Lady Lunafreya, I keep hearing she was in town. Apparently she left right away, but at least it means she's okay.
Good to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, well, get a good night's rest.
Iris doesn't do the best job of hiding it, and the game will outright tell you in black and white a little later on, but Iris does have quite a big crush on Noctis, but she knows she can't act on it because of all the ceremonies and her supposing to be wed to Lunafreya and destiny and all that stuff, so she just has to live with it, which is a bit depressing, but whatever. And don't worry, the old man in Talcott, I know that's terrible, I should remember his name, but I always forget his name. The reason why I remember Talcott is because he does become more plot relevant later on. It's just for now he's not that relevant, if I'm honest. But we get a few more pictures to add to our collection, and the next morning we go all SpongeBob and do a time skip with a time card.
Morning. Where is everyone?
Oh, they're out walking with Talcott. They went
And
to the
Iris comes
sights.
up with the idea to show you the
You
sights.
should too.
And of course I'm going to accept that because I get to spend time and you get to know Iris' character while you're at it.
Why not?
Great. I'll show you around.
She animates like an anime character now that I think about it. Every little thing she says, she has to really over-exaggerate every animation for it. I get that's probably to help try and add to her charm for the players and whatnot, but it's just something I noticed is all. No one else, I don't think, animates quite as much as she does with her body movements. Well, even saying great, and suddenly she's like ducking her head forward with her hands up in the air, like yeah, like you're not celebrating a giant carnival festival, calm it down a bit.
Night.
She's not kidding, the game's lighting engine really makes this place look not lovely during the night time. Not to say it looks bad during the day, but it does stick out quite nicely in the nightlight. And where she's taking us to is essentially the market area, where every shop you could ever possibly need is here, and also a lot of side quests. We won't bother with too many of them, because a lot of them are just go to X location, get item, return. Like there's no plot relevance or anything too interesting about it, but it's still there. Was that you can get some extra things by being nice to Iris, so be nice. So we'll act interested.
All these shops seem right up your alley.
You know me.
As
so
much as
well.
Noctis' voice actor can, as much as Ray Chase can highlight it, but we get extra experience for pretending to care. To be fair, I'll make that a point of it. A lot of people I hear criticise the English voice actors, like just in general say the English voice actors in Final Fantasy 15 aren't that great, but I don't mind them. I actually kind of like a lot of them. Yeah, the Japanese actors feel more involved with the role. I won't take that away from them, but I don't think it hurts it. I think the English voice cast do a perfectly fine job and do what needs to be done. And I think Ray Chase does a perfectly fine job as Noctis, even if they have droned out his performance a little bit compared to what it was in Episode to Sky, like the essentially early alpha. That they made him a lot more lazy, but a lot easier to anger in Episode to Sky compared to this. What's this? You still with laziness in there, and the anger's still a part of it, but both of them are nowhere near as extreme as they used to be. And I'm just going to run ahead because Iris will take forever to take you to where you need to go, so if you just head there yourself, you can skip all the time wasting of slowly walking around. And since it's the fastest I go, I start rolling as well.
The driving force behind Lestal's
And this giant
fire.
power plant here is essentially where all the energy, electricity, you name it, is fueled throughout the whole city, all at that one plant.
All the work.
So if it all went down, yeah, it'd be a bit of a problem. Now let's encourage her.
Sounds Sounds like your kind of place. I can see you doing well here.
Yeah, Iris is quite the working girl. She doesn't mind getting her hands dirty. Never likes to sit on the side.
I like it. Alright.
If we get another 250 experience, so we've already got 500. We might actually catch up to Iggy at this point. I'm still bitter about that. That we saw through. It was obvious blackmail. Called it out on it, and Iggy was like, "No, don't do that," and he got the experience for it. Ugh. Anyway, we progress down here. This route and this bit here, you'll become very accustomed to when you play Comrades, if you get it. But at least before the Royal Pack update, when that update came around, they gave you another actual hub world to explore other than just here. But it's just before then that you just got used to that little area I just ran through. You just did. And so I'll highlight it all and talk about it in depth properly when it comes to it. But I'm not sure how I'll handle it. I think my main plan is to do one whole part just showing it all off, even if it's a big one, and show off the bonus mission that actually relates to the main plot, and just work from there. I'll work something out. But as we come over to the end here, we can see the sights across the rest, and even see the meteor from here.
Right? Look. There's the meteor.
Yeah, way off in the distance.
You know, Noct, this almost feels like a date.
Wow, Iris, could you make it any more obvious? And the worst part is that she actually adds to it and makes it even more obvious by sounding all depressed by saying you already have Lady Lunafreya in a second, and then turning away from the camera.
And besides,
Yeah, here.
you already have Lady Lunafreya.
And she just turns away, and the game just sits in silence for a couple seconds to let you know that that actually kind of depressed her a little.
Let's join them.
But now we need to get back. It is kind of cute that Iris has that crush. It's a shame nothing will ever happen to it because Destiny already foretells she's not allowed to, and she is aware of it. Hell, in Comrades there's a little bio you can get of her, and the biography says that she has a crush but knows she can't because of Destiny. Like, they are quite blunt about it.
Feels so good.
Yeah, she comments on the breeze just as we're about to go through an alleyway. Well, I say that, there might be a bit of free wind, you never know. But when we head back, we'll actually get a little bit of information from Talcott on where to go next. Worth noting that none of these choices actually matter to anything, so don't feel alarmed and feel like you have to say the right thing. Just say what you want to say, and it will give you a different bonus depending on what you say.
No sweat.
Since I like Iris's character, I will remain civil and just be nice.
You did? I'm so happy to hear that.
Besides, it made her happy. And you get lots of more experience, so we might actually overtake Ignis and have the most experience of all the characters, you know, since I'm the main character, and so probably should. I strolled for 2. You don't get any extra experience for that. You get all the experience throughout it. You don't get any extra. But when you go in, Talcott will give us our next plot objective. So I'll shut up for that. Even though it's not that plot important, it's still something to do next.
I'm not royalty.
So, there's this legend about a sword, and the sword's supposed to be behind a waterfall nearby.
It may well be one of the lost tombs.
Check it out.
Sure. Thanks for the tip, Talcott.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it is as simple as that. One of the royal tombs has been located behind a waterfall cave. Let's go check it out. I have no idea whether if you go there before and get into it before, if it will firstly let you even do the dungeon, and secondly if you can get the sword and skip all that. Like, you can do a bit of sequence breaking. Like, if someone knows and wants to let me know, that'd be great, because I'm genuinely quite curious to see if you can sequence break that. There's another one a little later on that gets pointed out that you can go to beforehand, and that one I know you can sequence break because I did stumble into it beforehand, and I plan to do it again after we do the Lestalem plot point, so probably at the end of next part, so probably part 11 or so. I want to go tackle another lost tomb. The only one I won't tackle is Costelmark Tower, because that's level 55 and the final boss is not that level, so I'm really not sure how I'm going to handle that yet, because I want all the royal arms before I go for the final boss, and then it makes more sense for the final boss. But I don't want to advance through the plot and then suddenly backtrack for it. I'll work something out. It's just I don't want to end up over leveled, sort of thing. I have an experience band, so if worse comes to it, I'll just turn off getting experience and tank through going for it under the level. But if I cannot do that, I'd rather.
Fly channels. Okay.
Alright, this kid's got quite the attitude on him, by the way.
Deal with your fellow hunter, but he went silent on us.
Listen to him, he's supposed to be a kid.
Cold feet, maybe he's a cold corpse.
Jesus, kid.
You ask him if the deal's still on?
But this is one of the fetch quest, side quest things you can do. You just got to go find the hunter, talk to him, then come back. Essentially, they don't feel like they have that much relevance. You're not really getting to know characters. It's just people around the marketplace doing little things for them.
You drive all over the place? Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I kind of like the side quests in this game. A lot of them do feel like they have relevance. They're important to someone, sort of thing. Whilst the ones in the market here, it's just where it's relevant to the market as a whole, but not to the individuals. So I didn't really care. And if I remember rightly, these were some of the last side quests I did, like before I finished chasing side quests. Because there's more than 100 side quests in the game. I don't know the precise number, but there is quite a mountain ton in this game. I want to say it's close to 120 in this, but I'm probably wrong. Especially with the DLCs, because some of the DLCs did add extra side quests and just little things to do. Same with the free updates we've got over the past year and a half. I'm trying to work out what I do next, because I'm looking at the recording, because Final Fantasy 15 is all recorded in post. I've still got 10 minutes left. Unless I just... Because I know the cave I don't do till next part, because I've recorded a few parts in advance now. Like the cave I know I don't do till next part, but I can only assume I journey over there, I must do. Either that or I just check out all the sites. We'll learn together, folks. I recorded this a little while ago, as you can probably tell.
Thanks.
But we'll get these food bits as well. Ignis will probably make another recipe. Yeah. Oh, we phased through the wall. Oh, thanks, camera. But we've got a new recipe. But today's part I kind of wanted to make more of the Lestalem and Iris part, and then advance into the next dungeon properly next time around. Also, when you come over here, you can buy cup noodles. Yeah, the actual real-life cup noodles. There's a few things of advertising that squeeze into this game that if you pay attention you'll spot. And it's not too in your face, but it has its moments. The best example being the cup noodles. Because it's like, oh, it's Gladio's favourite food, cup noodles, they're great. And it's like, could you be any more blatant with your real world advertising? Or like how Prompto's camera is a real life camera. Or how the car is based off a real life car. That sort of thing. Also, this is another one of those actual people side quests. Viv knows exactly who you guys actually are, he's just being an ass. His side quest line will be about finding certain locations, taking pictures from certain angles, and then giving the pictures to him. You do have to do it manually yourself, you can't just wobble around. But it's piece of piss, it's not hard. It's just it's more of a side quest to encourage the player to go explore, to go to certain areas, take pictures, and then move on. Which is fine enough if you haven't already done what I've done and started exploring anyway, because we've already been around the meteorite. So the first side quest it gives us of taking the pictures of certain angles of the meteorite is kind of wasted. Because we've already done it before, it becomes a bit redundant. But if you haven't explored and just followed the quest, this should be your great hint to, actually start exploring. Explore the world you've been given. Don't just do the whole plot straight away. I mean, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with doing the whole plot straight away if you are someone who gets invested in Final Fantasy plot lines. Because don't get me wrong, some of the Final Fantasy plot lines over the years have been pretty good. But this is an open world game and expects you to obey it as such. The Wanderer. What was the Wanderer? I try and remember what the weapons are. I want to say the Wanderer was like the two swords, where it looks almost like a bow, but then it splits into two. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out how wrong I am when we get over there. I'm just glad I got the shield. I couldn't remember where the shield was, but it was one of the ones I wanted to get, so I'm glad it's like the first one I stumbled into, outside of the plot ones.
What can I do for you?
And I believe in the shop it's either Final Fantasy 11 or Final Fantasy 14 we can buy. 14, yeah. Which is neat. I don't think it has answer on it though, it's a shame because that's the best track from Final Fantasy 14. But it does have a large number of other tracks that I kind of like. If I remember rightly, I'm just selling a bunch of crap here. Yeah, I am, because I was broke. There is a cheeky way of getting a lot of money later on, but I won't bother with that just yet. Just know that there is a way of earning money better later on, just that's much later on. Because I don't know why Final Fantasy started doing this. It did it in 13, and it feels like it's just been something they haven't dropped ever since. You don't earn money from killing enemies anymore. You get experience, but you don't get money, and I just think, yeah, I get it, it was a bit archaic that every wild animal for some reason had real life money on it, but it was, you know, helpful.
You're real friendly. Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about doing all these fancy quests or grinding and shit. You could just go kill enemies and earn money. But they just got rid of it. It was starting in 13 they got rid of it, and it just seemed so weird. You'd get money in item boxes and money from selling shit, but that was it. For like, and keep in mind, Final Fantasy 13 is extremely linear up until chapter 9. Well, no, I tell a lie, chapter 11 technically. It's just the plot gets more interesting at chapter 9. Chapter 11 is where it actually lets you loose on the open world, well, in big quotation marks, open world. I'm doing a really poor job of defending Final Fantasy 13, I'm aware. The game's got a shit ton of problems, and it's impossible to recommend to people, because it's like, oh yeah, it only gets good 40 hours into the game. Well, I say that, if you're going quick, you can get there in like 25, but the point stands. That's an impossible thing to ask on someone. Don't worry, it might be bad for the first 30 to 40 hours, but after that it's a-okay. If the 13 trilogy ever came out on PS4, I'd probably let's play them just to try and show that there is good in the trilogy, especially 13-2. 13-2 I'll defend for every day of my life, because I genuinely think it's a great game and one of the best Final Fantasies, definitely in my top 5. It was just a great experience from start to finish. It was just 13 Lightning Returns that just gave it issues. This always happens when we're on the big road trips. I talk about other Final Fantasy games, I just can't help myself. The road trips when you're actually driving around, when you're playing the game it's fine because you're just enjoying things, but to watch, I honestly don't blame it if you guys just skip through it and just here for the dungeon crawling and whatnot, because sitting around watching it's not that entertaining. We're just driving from one place to the next, and whilst we're listening to Barthandelus' battle theme. I think that was the name of the guy.
Sun's gone down. Now might be a good time to consider where we'll set down for the night.
Yeah, there's an outpost not too far from where we're going, Iggy, don't worry about it. Well, this is something that's weird. They have the final boss themes of most of the Final Fantasies on the radio, but with 13, they have Phase 2, but not Phase 1. Phase 1, if you look at it on YouTube or anything like that, Phase 1 is severely more recognisable to everyone, including the Japanese culture, Square Enix, as the final boss theme, whilst Phase 2, because it's such a scripted fight, no one really considers it the final boss theme at all. Everyone considers the first phase, especially because the first phase clearly had all the effort put into it compared to the second phase. Yet when you get 13's soundtrack on this, in the radio, they give you the second phase yet not Phase 1. Like, what's going on there? I don't know, I just think it was a bizarre choice by them. And they keep only the instrumental versions of The Promise. They don't keep Leona Lewis's lyrical version, maybe because it was of copyright, I don't know. Because yeah, they actually had Leona Lewis back in 2008 sing the main theme to Final Fantasy 13. I guess to try and make it more streamlined, I guess? Which I thought was kind of weird, because the series never did bad. Like, Final Fantasy 7 is considered one of the greatest games of all time for a reason. I felt that their choice to try and make it more, look, it's great for the Americans, and make it more worldwide by throwing all these Western elements into it was very unnecessary.
Can we call it a night and head for the hotel?
And I'm going to have to tell Prompto to keep going so I can get them to park here, otherwise it'll warp us back to Lestalem and waste us the trip. And that's what I had to think about for a second. So we have to tell Prompto off. And I'm desperately hoping that the thing would skip so I could park so we don't miss the thing. And we do actually miss the parking point. So we can't park and get fuel because I really need fuel. So I just spam the park now button.
Pull over a sec.
And we just stop here. Which was annoying because I got interrupted by Prompto, but what are you going to do? But I'll leave my Final Fantasy discussion again. I think that's like the 4th time in this playthrough I've talked about other Final Fantasy games on road trips. I can't help it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy this game, but in terms of where I like it and where it stands, I'd say it's probably around the middle. It's a good game, but it has its problems. And that's kind of why I wanted to let's play it in the first place, to highlight its problems whilst also showing what is to like about it. Because like 13-2, it is severely overhated in my opinion. It gets a lot of shit it doesn't deserve.
I can taste test for you.
The only thing it does deserve is its handle of DLC. We didn't get the full plot of this game until a year after it came out, and you have to pay for it. That's just sleazy business strategy. The Royal Pack especially should have been free. The free episode DLCs, I could maybe twist my wrist and say, okay, I can understand why they charged it, but the Royal Pack directly adds important things to the plot that should have been there, and you don't get it unless you paid a £20 for it. Or like $25, whatever it translates to. But yay, we're the only one that got experience. Let's see what lovely pictures we got. Any with Iris I tend to keep because you barely get any throughout the game. Let's not keep a picture of Viv. What's Gladio doing there? But anyway, I've rambled on enough. Next time on Final Fantasy 15, we will start to explore the cave beyond the waterfall to try and find the Tomb of the Wanderer. But until then, you guys take care now.